Hey guys, we finally got a San Diego legend on our show. We've had Rich Valdemar, we've had Devin Hawks, we've had so many other legends from
Chalo
LA, from
Gerardo.
SFU.
Chalo.
Yeah, Chalo, no, Chalo, you're one of us. Pero we've had so many legends. Pero sabes qué? We finally got, well, we had Steve Duncan. He's one
Yeah,
of our
Steve Duncan,
legends
he's a
from
legend.
San Diego. But Felix today, guys, I've been waiting for the past month since we saw him for him to come on the show. I am so excited. We already got people coming in. Ruben Nava, bienvenido. Lupe, bienvenido. JC, salud, mi hermano. And we have a new, I think this is the first time that we see him, but we just found out your story. Give me a quick second while I bring
Jaime.
him up.
Jaime Ayala,
Jaime,
no?
yeah, Jaime Ayala. Hi, Jaime, we just heard your story. We're going to be getting your phone number. We want you on our show. Great testimony. But, guys, with that said, Chalo, first of all, our prayers for your wife. We understand that she's in the hospital. You're with her right now. They're in San Diego. How's she doing? How are you doing, my brother?
Yeah, wife's doing great. The surgery went well, man. We just here waiting it out, and God willing, tomorrow morning we're on our way home. But
Qué bueno,
weather's nice.
Chalo.
She's got the $1 million view from her hospital room.
Oh, my God. Yeah,
And,
what a
and,
beautiful view,
you
man.
look at
Yeah.
it, man. I said, you know what? I said, when you start feeling better, I'll go get a bottle of wine and we'll sit here and watch it.
Exactly. Well, next time I get sick, I'm flying to that hotel. I mean, to that hotel, say
Yeah,
hotel, to that hospital. You know,
yeah,
Yeah,
man.
Big Sean, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, bro. Doing well. Colder than shit around here right now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Hey, I
we were
know,
at 80 degrees the other day, and it dropped down to 52.
hey,
Wow.
I know you're excited about today's show because
Oh,
you actually
dude.
worked with him up in the hills on the border
Yeah,
team. We're
down
going to be
south.
hearing about that. You
Yeah,
worked with him in gangs when SCD
yeah.
was around,
When the
and
SED was
he
around,
was
yeah,
a gang detective. Oh,
yeah,
dude! But you
yeah.
know what? Enough of us. One other thing before I forget, Benny, we miss you.
Yep.
Our producer and the head of the show, Benny Cruz. Right now, he's on a boat cruise somewhere in Mexico. Only God and him know where he's at. But Benny, prayers for you. We miss you, brother. We'll see you again next week.
Hey, David,
Once again,
knowing Benny the way he is, he's trying to get the boat to go to Acapulco to go help the people out, bro.
Yeah.
He's got a big heart,
hey,
man. He wants to go out there and help all the
Yeah.
time. So,
exactly. The only
There's
bad thing
another
prayers,
is we
prayers
gotta
system
to the
let
just
him back
south
on
of
the
where he's
boat.
at, too.
yeah.
Yeah,
Prayers to these
exactly.
people
Yeah.
in Acapulco, man.
Yeah.
Prayers to the people in
Exactly.
Acapulco.
Yeah.
Exactamente. Guys, before we start the show, Chalo, do you have any shout outs?
No, other than hey, thanks for the prayers, people. Know was
Yeah.
for my wife and everything, and like I said again, let's keep the people in Acapulco. If you know of a place to donate money or donate some, my mom already hit the family up and she texted all of us, and she's went over and took some money down for the people. They need help down there in Acapulco, man. They got hit really hard,
Yeah.
really,
Prayers
really
for
hard.
them,
So
prayers for
yeah,
Israel, prayers to
Yep.
Gaza, and also prayers for Ukraine, man. Right now, a lot of wars everywhere. Thank God we live in beautiful America, but prayers for them. Sean, do you have any shout outs? We get
Just
started.
to piggyback on what you just said, the world's going to shit. It's
Yeah.
people are going crazy. So just watch your back and watch your six, and you see something, report it.
Amen. Chalo, it's all yours. Tell us about Felix, and I can't wait till I have 1,000 questions for him. Here you
wow,
go, Chalo.
wow.
It's all yours.
Hey, first of all, man, week 39. Are we gonna do
I
something
know.
for week 50? I mean, we're doing pretty good, man. And I saw the numbers. I was like, wow, 39. And I like guest number 2 or 3 or week, something like that. Anyways,
I think you
today's
were the
guest
first.
was it? I don't know. I don't think I
No,
I
was the
think
first. I think
so.
you guys
it's
had somebody else.
No,
No,
afterwards.
second.
it was afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, probably
Yeah.
second. Anyways, hey, you know what? Our guest today is retired San Diego Police and Gang Detective, Mr. Felix Aguirre. I think he was he a staff sergeant in the U.S. Marine Corps. So here you go, man. Our guest tonight, we know as Detective Aguirre has 27 years of law enforcement experience, with 20 of those years working in the criminal street gangs in San Diego. Who would believe how San Diego, such a beautiful city, would have gangs, but they're everywhere. Detective Aguirre has conducted training of street gangs for law enforcement across the United States and Mexico. He's also a member of the San Diego PD's Border Crime Prevention Unit, where he was involved in 11 shootings involving bandits, most of which were members of the Tijuana-based street gangs or gangs from members from Otay. Um, we hear, we'll hear about all those years that he did in San Diego, and when the San Diego's gang activity actually peaked, and we'll see tonight what Felix has for us. Welcome, Felix, and thank you for joining us tonight. Um, thank you for your service, sir. I love your flags. Uh, yeah. Thank you so much.
Well,
Thank you for being
thank
here.
you very much for the invite. Thank you. It's an honor, honestly. Especially working with, I mean, literally three other legends. So
Oh,
thank you very much for the invite.
Hey, Felix, like I was telling you earlier, man, we are so excited that you're here. And we want to hear all your gang stories. We want to hear when you worked in the border. We want to know more about you. With that said, Chalo has the first question. Here we go.
Yeah, like
Let's
always,
rock
man.
and
Throw me in
roll.
yeah. Hey, so I get to be Benny today. I'll
A
stay
huevo.
quiet for a while. Hey,
Órale, vamos con eso.
before we start the show, Felix, por favor, please tell us about a little about yourself. Where are where are you from? What were your goals and dreams growing up? We all know you're a veteran, a Marine, and we thank you for your service and sacrifice you did for us, for our country. Tell us a little about your service to our country, getting hired by San Diego PD, your academy time, and experience working the streets the gangs units in San Diego. So I know if
I'm
I'm going to
originally
slow
from
down.
South Texas.
Órale,
I'm
Tejano. What
originally
part
from
of
a
Texas?
little, just down in South Texas by Corpus Christi area, along the Gulf Coast. That's where I'm from. I'm from a little town, little small town, population maybe 5,000. I grew up there, graduated high school 74. I wanted to be a police officer. That was always my goal. But when I graduated from high school, I was 5'4" and weighed 116 pounds. And at that time, there was a height and a weight requirement, so I couldn't be a cop. You had to be 5'8" and you had to weigh 160 pounds. I was not anywhere close to that. So I decided to join the Marine Corps. Uh, one day after my birthday, I signed up for the Marine Corps tail end of Vietnam. Went to boot camp. My first duty station was at Marine Barracks in Subic Bay, Philippines. When we pulled out of Saigon in April of 75, I was there at Marine Barracks and we were involved processing everybody coming out of Nam. We did that from April through August of 75. And then I left the Philippines, ended up in the 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, one of the most decorated units in the Marine Corps. Infantry, I was a platoon sergeant, a platoon commander. There we worked tank infantry tactics, desert warfare, explosives, any number of things that infantry people do. In 1978, I ended up going to drill instructor school. I went to DI school, graduated from there, and was a drill instructor latter part of 78, 79, and 80. Put through about 600 Marine recruits. I had an absolute blast.
Real
I
quick, I'm
ended up
sorry.
leaving the Marine Corps.
Can
I'm
I
sorry?
interrupt you? Hey, so and I don't want to miss out. So you were a DI. Where were you a DI at? Which boot camp?
I was
Where
at
were you?
San Diego. I was at what they Hollywood. I'm a Hollywood Marine. I was
Oh,
in San Diego. I put through a total of 9 platoons. 2 platoons as a junior drill instructor and 7 as a senior.
whoa.
And when I left there, I had actually been selected to be a drill master at DI school, but I only had 6 months left in the Corps, and they really needed me in the infantry. So I had to leave the drill field and go back to the infantry, which I loved. I loved the infantry. But anyway, I ended up going there, back to 1-1, and then from there I left the Corps. I left the Corps in June of 81, and about 4 or 5 months before I left the Corps, I had applied for the San Diego Police Department. I ended up getting hired in July 25th of 1981. And my first, obviously my training phases took me to La Jolla and, other places, downtown San Diego and places like that. But my first assignment was San Isidro. Anybody who doesn't know what San Isidro is, basically along the U.S.-Mexican border. At that time, to cross a border, all you had to do is lift your foot about 2 feet, cross over a little half-inch thick cable, and you're in Mexico. I mean, it was that open.
yep.
Wow.
So I ended up doing patrol in San Isidro as a patrol officer, and the wildcatters down there used to call me Pollo. So everywhere I went, hey, Pollo, I was typical wildcatters. I had a good time. But anyway, I did that till about 84, and I was assigned to the Border Crime Prevention Unit. Now that's different from the very first task force that went out was a BARF, a Border Alien Robbery Force. The Border Alien Robbery Force basically paved the way for us to do what we did. But the Border alien robbery force, what they did was they dressed up like illegal aliens, basically blue jeans and raggedy clothing and stuff, and they would try to come across the border or come across north from the border, and they would try to be victims, try to be targeted as victims so they could take down the bandits. I believe they were involved in like, I don't know, 5 or 6 shootings, I believe. And in a couple of shootings, they shot each other in a crossfire, but they definitely opened up the doors for us. In 1984, when Joseph Wamba released the book Lines and Shadows.
Hey, Felix, real quick, we're going to get into that at the end of the interview.
Okay.
We have some more questions because we have a lot of questions related to that. Right now, we're going to get into your gang world. Go ahead, Charlie, your next question.
I already had interrupted one, and I don't want to piss off the sergeant. I mean,
no. Go ahead, brother.
The Marine sergeant, he's a DI, man. You never know. Hey, so I was gonna interrupt and say, hey, so for people who don't know Calexico is just like San Isidro, a little bit smaller with heat though. it's the same thing, same demographics. Anyways, Felix, here it is, man. Can you tell us about you working patrols, or the streets of San Diego in the '90s? And what was the activity level of the gangs during that period?
Actually, Felix, let me just say this. During the 80s, working gangs, I mean, you're working San Isidro, they were always fighting with Otay, fighting with Del Sol, fighting with Imperials. How was it working in San Isidro when Otay would come and jump or shoot the guys, or Isidro going down there? How was it then in the 80s?
I was down there in 81. During patrol duties, we saw a lot of Cedro and Del Sol, but we saw 0 Imperials. We did have a major shooting. I remember Otay and Del Sol got into some big shooting, ended up with some deaths and stuff, and that kind of quieted everything down. My whole patrol period down there, we dealt mostly with heroin. People using heroin all the time, but selling heroin and stuff like that, but very little gang activity at that time from Cedro, Del Sol, and the Imperials. The Imperials were almost non-existent. And of course, Otay was north of Main Street, which wasn't part of our jurisdiction. We knew them because they did come across and because they were involved in some bandit stuff.
Hey, Felix, so is the San Isidro just like Calexico dealing a lot with the brown tar heroin, or was it the powder heroin that everybody was used to seeing back in those days?
At that time, it was black tar.
Black tar. I'm sorry.
Black tar heroin was a big thing. I one time a guy basically overdosed in the bathroom, and the mama called me, and the guy's dead on the doorknob, and I'm trying to give him CPR, and the guy burped right in my face, and I threw up in front of the family. But black tar heroin was a big thing.
Yeah.
Okay, Big Sean, your question.
Bro, it's good to see you, man. We had some good times down in Cedro, trust me. Hey, when you were assigned to the gang unit, were you assigned to any particular gang or gang groups or area? And how did you start, being a gang expert? And were you trained on working on gangs, duties, policies, documentation, etc.?
Wow, that's a lot of questions. But let me tell you, I went to the gang unit in 1988. January of 1988 is when I went to the gang unit. When I first got there, I was working Crips, neighborhood and West Coast. I guess they were trying to figure out where to put me. Within a few months, I was assigned Southeast. I was working Shelltown, which was at that time documented as one gang. I was working Shelltown, Market, and I was working Lomas and Sherman. At that time was Sherman 27th Street, Grand Hills. And then I was working Barrio Encanto and Lomita. Those were the first gangs that I started to monitor as Latino gangs. Later on, oh my God, if I went through the list of gangs that I monitored, eventually I ended up working Shelltown 38th Street. I split Shelltown 38th and into Shelltown 38th Street and Gamma. And then Barrio Market, Barrio Encanto, Lomita Village, Seven O's, Lomas 26th Street, Sherman 27th Street, Paradise Hills, Sherman 20th Street, Gangster Mafia Family, Cedro, Del Sol, Imperials, Four Corners of the World, Southeast 7-3, Southeast Locos, and then I worked the Asian gangs, Vietnamese, Cambodian, Laotian, and Hmong. Then in OBS, OKB, there was OBS 47, OBS 50, Oriental Killer, Killer Boys, TOC, Tiny Oriental Crips, COC, Crazy Oriental Crips, Viet Boys. And then I started to monitor the taggers and the rebels that were coming up in late 89, 89, 90 was we started to see a little bit of tagger and rebel stuff. And then, I mean, it went to hell in 90, 92, 93, it started to go kaput. So, I mean, really bad. Then because of rivals of my gangs included Spring Valley Locos, Old Town National City, Logan 30, Logan Red Steps, Logan 33rd Street, Lemon Grove Locos, and I ended up monitoring some of that activity as well. A good relationship with the adjacent agencies. So that's what I monitored.
Hey, Felix, were you on the Violent Crimes Task Force? Lupin had that question.
I can tell you, I was asked to go to the Violent Crimes Task Force, me and Jorge Sanchez. Obviously, we were the most senior and experienced detectives in the gang unit at the time. And at that time, some of you don't know, but the Soviet Union had collapsed. It broke apart, the USSR, and went to Russia. But anyway, they pulled a lot of FBI agents from working that stuff, and they ended up about 300 agents were assigned to municipalities to work with law enforcement, municipal officers, sheriff's department, stuff like that. And they were trying to create the Violent Gang Task Force. That's what they called it initially, and they wanted us to go there. But anybody that's ever worked with the FBI, I mean, if I tell you this right off the way they treated the officer working there, they had to escort you. Were in their office. In order for you to go to the bathroom, they had to escort you to the bathroom and escort you back, because until your entire background check had come through and you were authorized to work with an FBI agent. Bottom line is that it was something that I wasn't going to do, and I said, you know what, ain't doing it. Jorge said, no, ain't doing it, and they ended up taking George Sykes, who had been in the unit like 3 weeks, and that's he ended up going there. I never went there. I'm sure it improved later on with the experiences they started to develop and stuff like that. Other people started to go, like Mike Gutierrez, one of the bitchinest guys this side of the Mississippi.
Yeah,
and he did real well, stayed there like forever, and he loved it. He did. I mean, Mexican mafia expert, big time. So
Eric Morales, Van Cruz. I mean, those guys, they all lived their whole career over there, basically.
Oh, hell yeah. By that time, like I said, you know what happened is when the FBI agents started to create this Violent Gang Task Force, they sent a bunch of FBI agents to our office, and they rode along with us for several weeks. And we would take them into the hood at night, and we tried to teach them what to look for, help them to understand reading graffiti, what it means, and hand signs and all this other stuff. We took them out every night. And they go out, we go out in the hood every different barrio and teach them how to understand gang stuff. So then they started the task force, and then later on it went to the terrorist task force or something like that.
Yeah,
they changed the name.
Yeah, Joint Terrorism Task Force.
Monday?
The Joint Terrorism Task Force.
Yeah, they changed the name, but they had started out as a Violent Gang Task Force. And that was, oh my God, I want to say probably the 90s or something. I forget what it was. But I had a good time working with them. I knew some bitchin' FBI agents that worked with. Some really nice characters.
Hey, Felix, when you were working the 7 O's, did you work Roy Boy Rivas? Did you ever chase him? Did you ever arrest him? Or was he?
Rivas. Which Rivas you talking about?
Roy Boy Rivas. ¿Te acuerdas de Roy Boy?
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I can tell you a story about Roy Boy.
Yeah.
Huh?
Tell us a story about him.
That boy was there. He was hooked. But anyway, they lived on 69th Street right there by just off of Lisbon. Anyway, he one time he and a white dude in a blue Chevy Le Mans, they kidnapped Roy Boy's Rivas' brother. They kidnapped his brother, and Rivas is sitting in the passenger seat. The white boy is driving, and they put the brother upside down on the floorboard with his head on the floorboard, and Rivas is stabbing him in the legs several times because he took one of Rivas's belts, and the guy they drove around with this guy stabbing him in the legs. That's his brother. And then they drove back home. They lived, I don't know if you know where they had almost like an acre of open land right there. The house and a big open, it led to a back ditch or something in the back. and they were talking between the white dude and Rivas were talking about how they were going to kill this brother and they were going to bury him in the backyard. So when they opened the door, his brother took off running and went to the neighbor's house, pounded on the door, forced the door open, went and hid in the closet, and of course I was called, and it went from there. But it's pretty cool. Anyway, later on, Escondido PD called me, and they were going to extradite him from Mexico, and they wanted to know who he was. Nobody in the gang unit knew who he was because obviously he'd been gone for God knows how many years. But they wanted to know something about him. Well, of course I knew him. I knew him well, and they ended up prosecuting him for murder. I don't know what the circumstances were, but they were calling me about it and stuff.
That's interesting. Sean, go ahead, brother.
Oh, that was. Yeah, I think Felix has already answered it pretty much. Which of the gangs of all the ones that you listed did you work with the most?
Which one did I work with the most?
Yeah.
Yes.
I worked very closely with Shelltown, Gamma, and 38th Street. I knew all the characters. I knew I knew a bunch of people. I can't say you can't say everybody because a lot of them try to hide. I try to stay away from you, but I knew Shelltown, Gamma, 38 very well. I knew Lomita very well. I lived outside Lomita. I lived between Lomita and Spring Valley. And I used to see Lomita boys come by my house and go, "Who's up, Felix?" Pretty cool. But anyway, so I knew Lomita very well. I knew Barrio Encanto very well. I knew PH. PH didn't emerge till many years later. We didn't see PH till, I want to say probably 89, 90. And I actually was involved in documenting PH from scratch.
Hey, Felix.
And that they came up when we had a guy from B Down Boys. The first Filipino gang was the B Down Boys, emerged in Morris High School, and PH and B Down Boys started clashing, and PH chased this B Down Boy down the backside of the street, and they ended up shooting him in the chest, killing him. And then a week later, some B Down Boys chased a PH guy down at Martin Luther King Park, and they shot him and executed him. And that's how those two gangs. We started doing background investigation on all these characters. Found out that the gang was basically trying to come up with. They hadn't come to our attention until then, so we started documenting both gangs. Doc Blaylock picked up the B Down Boys, and I picked up PH, and we worked together to document both groups.
Hey, real quick, like Felix, for people that are not from San Diego and don't understand, who's Shelltown, who's PH, who's B Town, what areas of San Diego are those from?
Okay, Shelltown is in the Shelltown community of San Diego. It's down borderline national. Their southern border is National City. They have a Main Street. I'm sorry. Anyway, Shelltown, and then the naval base, whatever street. I think I forget what the name of the street is.
It's Main Street. Bro.
And then they go all the way to.
Why do they call it? Why do they call it Shelltown? Is it because of the military base with the military ammunition shells, or shell because of the ocean? I mean,
no. The story is that many years ago, the naval base had Quonset huts, and if you know what Quonset huts look like, they look like little shells, aluminum shells, but they're actually barracks. I lived in them when I was in boot camp, but they're basically converted. They're barracks is what they are. And there was a whole bunch of Quonset huts in the naval base, and they looked like shells to the community. So people would say, "I'm going to Shelltown," and that's how the community got its name. And
so it's the same. It's the same barracks that they had in Gomer Pyle USMC show.
Yes, those are called Quonset huts. Okay. We had them in MCRD in San Diego for many years. I think there's only like one or just a few left, but most of them have been demolished and replaced with, luxury hotels or something. I don't know.
There's a few still in Logan.
And then we had. I'm sorry, you asked about PH.
Yeah,
PH. PH is Paradise Hills. Oh. It's a really nice middle class community. A Latino gang there is called PH, and they take obviously the name PH is a Spanish enunciation of the letter P and H, which is Paradise Hills, and that's who PH is. It's just saying PH in Spanish.
Gotcha.
And then Barrio Encanto, obviously borderline Lemon Grove up in the southeast area, and then Lomita was also borderline Lemon Grove. Encanto, they were rivals and stuff. Lomita Village 7 O's. They're believed to have gotten their name from some Compton Barrio Seminoles that came down and established in San Diego. Barrio Encanto, it's just the name of the community, Encanto. They call them Barrio Encanto Locos, VEL. They also go by 69th Street stuff. So.
Awesome. See, You
Hey,
school
Felix.
me and other people.
Hey, Felix, let's go back to January 21st, 1991. That's the night that Beto Vasquez was killed by Shelltown. And I know we've always had a friction fights or they hated each other, Shelltown and Logan Heights, but he gets shot on a Monday night about 1 o'clock in the morning. Van Cruz and I are responding to the call. We get there. Next day, we hear shootings. Everything goes crazy. There was always, they've hated each other for years. Logan Heights and Calle 30. Logan Heights, Calle 30, Red Steps, all Logan Heights against Shelltown. What happened? Did anybody ever get arrested on that murder of Beto? Or what happened in retaliation from Logan Heights to Shelltown?
Okay, for Charles' edification, the difference between the rivalry between Logan and Shelltown, basically all of Shelltown used to be part of Logan. The community of Shelltown was all basically all Logan as a one community until Highway 15 was built that separated one side, and it became Logan, stayed as Logan 30, Logan Red Steps, Logan 33rd Street, Logan 13, and then on the south side was Shelltown, and that's how that, and then they became rivals. On Beto's shooting, we were not called, we were not involved in investigation at all. What I dealt with was the ramifications, the response from whom we believe was Logan, and a series of shootings that we had post Beto's homicide. Somebody in one of your podcasts, somebody was asking about Mimi Barraza.
Yes.
Mimi Barraza was a cute little young girl. I mean, she was 20, I think she was 21. She lived across the street from the church on St. Jude's. A wonderful family, a mom, and she wasn't a gang member, but she was dating gang members. Anyway, she got into an argument with Eddie Barajas, whom she was seeing. And initially, Eddie was picked up suspect in the homicide, but Eddie didn't do it. And it was just a 415 between the two. Mimi ended up going to Gamma Street, visit another homeboy. And while standing in the alley, we believe Logan was doing a drive-by, and she took a 223 round in the back of the head. And she died right there in the alley. We had that shooting, then we had Bulldog shooting, then we had another shooting on 39th and Delta, and then we had, we just had a series of shootings, and it went from handguns shootings to 223s, AK-47s. All of a sudden, in one shooting scene, we had over 70 rounds expended in the alley. Miguel Morado was killed in the alley with over 70 223 rounds that we found at that scene. Of course, Beto was killed on his front porch. Just a series of shootings that we started having. Munch and Capone were murdered at the 39th and T on Christmas Eve.
Who was that? Was that Munchie and Capone?
Munchie and Capone both were murdered at the same time. They were standing together at the corner of 39th and T, and we believe Logan walked up on them and took them both out. Munchie had been shot 3 or 4 times before. He had been a victim of a drive-by shooting, and he hit with a. Munchie was, let me say, he was huge.
Yes.
The boy was huge, and he took a grazing round on the left side of his hip, on his waist, and it took a big chunk of meat off of him. And then he took a bullet somewhere near the crotch, and we found him just laying down like a downed walrus. But the guy survived that one. Then Shelltown crashed a paisa party. For those of you who don't know, paisa is paisa, or Mexicans, if you will, Mexican nationals that are not gang members. They're just Mexican nationals who gather in communities and stuff. Well, they were having a paisa party, and Munchie and a bunch of Shelltown boys went in messing with the girls, and Munchie, and a fight broke out. Munchie was knocked on his butt, and somebody stood over him and capped him about 3 times in the waist, in the stomach with a 38, and he survived that one too, but he didn't survive 39th and T.
When I was in SED, I responded to Munch's shooting where he got shot in the rear end, and you know what? We thought he was 1140. We thought he was dead, and he's laying there. And he was being a code 3 ass. I said, Munch, who did the drive-by? And typical Shelltown, they stood there and watched it. They were all posing out there. And anyways, he got shot right through the crotch. And I looked at him, and I'm getting kind of pissed off because he's being an ass. And I go, hey, Munch, you know where your PP is right now? Because you're now our Munchette. It filleted.
Yeah.
You know, nobody ever that we know of, that I know of. I don't think anybody was ever identified in shooting Beto, but I know that within a day or two, there was some Munchie and Capone graffiti at the corner of Goodyear and Newton. There was a brick wall that kind of just around the corner right there, and a big old piece of graffiti said, Shelton, 38th Street, fuck with the best, die like the rest, or some shit like that. And Munchie and Capone or something like that. Anyway, shortly thereafter, Munchie met his maker, and so did Capone.
Hey, Lupe, here,
Uh,
Lupe, Felix is saying Capone had just paroled not long after doing about 30 something years. Did you know that? That he had done
Which one?
30 something. Lupe is stating that Capone had just paroled not long after right before they shot him, after doing 30 something years. Had he just got out of prison, Capone? His name was Caesar,
I believe
right?
so. That was Cesar Ramos.
Yeah.
That was Cesar Ramos. He had a brother, and I dealt a lot with his brother. One of the main hangouts at that time in Shelltown was the dead end of Goodyear, 1000 Goodyear, a green apartment complex at the end of the alley on the left side. I had a pretty good relationship with most of Shelltown. With most of my gangs, actually, I had a really good relationship. I could hang out with Cyclone and his brothers and his mama and his. I used to sit around and have coffee with his mom in the morning, and she would say, "Hey, if you've been looking for Cyclone, you come over looking for Cyclone." And I know Lupe's talking about a different Miguel Perez. Miguel Perez is another one that was involved in a shooting at the corner of 38th and National. That's a different guy, and I think he went on to hook up with Miami. The Capone that I'm talking about that was murdered at 39th and T was Cesar Ramos, for Lupe's edification. The other guy you're talking about is a different guy that was involved in a shooting at 30th and T. A walk up on some guys that were sitting on a wall at the market right there on 30th and 38th and National. But the Capone that I'm talking about is a different Capone.
Hey,
He would have
Felix.
been, and he wasn't. I don't think. Come to think, I don't think he was really necessarily fresh out of prison. The other one was Miguel Perez, would be a different guy, two different characters.
Hey, Felix Ceci, welcome to the show once again, sister. Hey, Felix, the Mimi Barraza murder, was it ever solved?
No, that was done. Like I said, it was nighttime. And Mimi was on the 30. She was in the alley immediately off of Delta, and the next alley would be 39th Street, headed towards Goodyear. That way, and she was standing in the alley, in the opening alley, and the shooting came from 40th Street, basically coming down the in dark alley. So it was a passing vehicle. We don't know anything about it other than, and of course, witnesses didn't see it. All they know is they heard shooting and they saw her drop. People came out from the house where she was supposed to go visiting, and she was dead.
Wow.
I don't
Okay.
think that ever was solved.
So, Chalo, go ahead, brother.
All right, man. Let's get back on track. Hey,
My man, these
hey,
great
Felix.
stories.
I mean, I know, man. How do you monitor the activities, the gang activities, and what skills do you need to be an effective gang detective?
Oh, that's a perfect question, because there's a difference between expertise and a good effective. Let me tell you this: I worked gangs. I was in the gang unit 16 years, and then worked gangs. Continued to work gangs in Southeast for another 4 years. So technically, I worked gangs 20 years. That's all I did was work gang investigations. Uh, to learn the gang, first of all, is there was no training. It was a sink or swim. You go out there and learn what needs to get done, and you start talking to these gang members. And the way I did it, I was out there every single day. I was out there at night. I was out there in the daytime. When I went to work, I went through the barrios. I lived in the Lomita area, so I go through Lomita and go out through Lincoln Park. Sometimes I go through Barrio Encanto, and I go through Paradise Hills. End up in the National City, come in through Shelltown Gamma, come on 38th Street down through Lomas. That's how I went to work. And going home, I go the same way. I always knew who was out and about in the daytime and the nighttime and the noon. I knew the type of cars they drove. I knew the types of graffiti and on their hangouts. So you basically learn as much as you possibly can about this gang, and you learn it by firsthand experience. It teaches you that way than trying to go to a classroom and try to learn something. That's why I was always, I didn't like it when they put some guy that just, he's got a college degree and he's an expert. He learned it in books and behind the desk. And I go, okay, whatever. But bottom line, to learn the gang stuff really well and be effective is to go out there I went through 18 partners in the gang unit. And because some of them go, you're freaking crazy. And I would do my reports at home, my search warrants, my arrest warrants. I'd do them at home on my own computer, print them at home, and I bring them in the next day. I'd go through my messages, my desk a little bit, what reports are coming in, and I was out the door. And if I had a partner, hey, we're gonna stop and eat. We ain't got time to eat. We gotta go here. That was me. I was on coffee. The PD thought I was on meth. When the gang unit started, we volunteered for the urine test for the first time for the PD, and they said, yeah, it's random. Okay, on Friday afternoon, I got tested. On Monday, I got tested. It's like, I'm on coffee, goddammit, They always thought I was on meth or something. I didn't gain any weight. I didn't pass 150 till I was a weight of 150. I didn't pass 150 till I was over 50 years old.
Wow.
I was a skinny.
Felix, we need to get your blood, get the DNA, go out there, go to a lab, and develop some supplements to give them to the younger generation that just wants to sit back and be on TikTok and social media and having their coffee breaks and stuff like. You know what? You would have never made a good Fed, because they don't go to work till 9, and then they go work out, then they go eat lunch, and then they go back and then they leave at 3 to go pick up their kids or go do something, and then they're off at 5. Oops, sorry. Did I offend anybody?
But you know what? Guys? Felix has always been like that. He was like that in patrol too.
Oh, okay.
I mean, lineup ended, and all you saw was a door open and a car leave, and Felix was like a BB in the field. He was all over the place.
Hey, Felix, one of the things I was telling the guys before you came on was you were that guy. When I was working gangs, when I was in GST, we'd have a vato from Encanto, Lobo, stopped, and all of a sudden I'd get a hold of you on the radio. Hey, man, we got this vato named Lobo, stop, or Mad Dog, stop, and you would go, oh, yeah, that's Eddie Young, date of birth 10/12/1975. I mean, and I'd have another vato stop in Cedro also, and I would get on the air. Felix also says he knows you. You always knew exactly who they were, where they lived, and their date of birth. I mean, it was all right here. Thank you for the coffee that you were drinking, because, I mean, dude, you knew everybody, man. That was crazy. Hey, Felix, we have a quick question from Lupe once again. Ask Aguirre if he worked the case on Rojo from PH, Paradise Hills. He got caught up in 96, 97 for a murder in Lomita.
Yes. And he was picked up at a gas station. He was picked, him and another character, I forget what the other guy's name is. But they had done a shooting in Lomita, and they took off, and they stopped to get gas at a corner right there on Skyline, not too far. I knew Rojo from a previous search of his house. He was living with grandma on a street called Inyo or something like that. But I hit his house, and that's the guy from Peache. So yeah, I knew Rojo well. As a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, he had some good family friends that were maybe I'm talking that were law enforcement. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I was involved in that. I went there when they picked him up at the gas station. So.
Felix, you need to come back. Right now, we're going to change gears a little bit. Sean's, we're going to get into your border teams, which is a great topic, but you need to promise us you're going to come back so we could talk hear about your best cases, we want to hear all the gang cases. You're that gang expert. We'll talk a little bit more at the end of the show, but with that said, Sean, it's all yours. Let's change gears. Let's go to the border team now.
Yeah, and real quick, when you come back, we're going to talk about the incident down in Cedro at the trailer park. Remember that when you showed up and you were the only one there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
With the Hells Angels.
Yeah.
The Hells Angels.
Yep.
Well,
When
you
I
know
went
what?
to
Let's
court,
talk about it now. Let's talk about it now.
You want to talk
Tell us
about it
it.
now, bro?
Yeah,
I mean,
let's
you know
go.
what?
Let's go. Hell's
Go ahead,
Angels.
Felix.
Yeah.
Dude.
oh
Yeah.
my God, it was a trailer park
Yeah.
on Del Sol. What happened is it was in the shift. I had worked midnight. I worked midnight shift, and it was about 7 o'clock in the morning. Everybody was already 10:42. Everybody was already at the station except me. Like me, I always waited till the last minute. And I'll tell you right off the bat, just because, but as a Marine drill instructor, I worked 18, 20-hour days. So when I came to work at San Diego Police Department after 8 hours, they said, you can go home. The fuck am I going to do at home? Shit, 8 hours, really? And that was it. So anyway, I always stayed, I went in early and I stayed late. It didn't matter to me. So at 7 o'clock, there was a call, 459 now. I go to the trailer park. I forget what officer it was. I arrived first. And there was a manager of the trailer park, and he directed the first officer and directed him up to the right with a Cadillac, with a guy sitting in a Cadillac. Guy last name Self, S-E-L-F. Anyway, so the officer's there talking to him, and when I arrived, they direct me to the other side of the trailer park and they direct me to a mobile home where somebody had done a 459. All I see is a footprint about, oh my God, the footprint is about this big. The screen door is bent like a bow and arrow like this. And then the door was wide open. On the door itself was a big old footprint, black footprint, and the door was wide open. I look in. At that time, we're not wearing bulletproof vests. I got a black windbreaker. I'm a whole 130 pounds, and I got a 6-shot revolver. That's it. At that time, we hadn't gone to semi-automatics yet. So I walk. I'm right at the threshold of the door. I didn't go in. The screen door is open to the left, and then the wooden doors open to the inside. And I look inside, and I got my handgun, and I'm looking inside, and I see a guy, 2 guys at the kitchen, and then a third guy sitting on a stool, and he's in pajamas. The other guys are all they're Hell's Angel bikers, big old gruffy looking guys. So I asked the guy, what's going on, and one of the Hell's Angels pops up, and he goes, oh, we're here to we're repossessing a car. We're just having a problem, discussing the issue. All right. And I asked the little short, scrawny guy in pajamas. I said, what's up? Come over here. And he gets up and starts to walk towards me. About 5 feet from me, he runs at me and says, they got guns. And I went, whoa. And I put him back behind me. By that time, a female officer arrived, and she's at the bottom of the stairs, and I shoved him down there, and I'm at the doorway, and I'm saying, guys, get up against the fucking wall. Well, the wall. It's still the same wall.
That's all right. It's all right.
I said, get up against the wall. So 2 Hell's Angels, and they're cooperating. And it's a wall completely across from the doorway that I'm at. So there's a whole open living room in front of me with the door open to the left. And I'm just going, okay. Yeah, and they're, no problem, officer. I'm telling you, we're just having a dispute, blah, blah, blah. Here to repossess a car. And that was it. So I'm just standing at the doorway. Once the female officer arrives, she takes the victim out of the way, and then she comes back, and she's got her gun drawn. And I start calling one Hell Angel at a time, coming backwards. Come on back. And at that time, I got a really loud, gruffy voice. I'm just off the drill field. I mean, my voice is absolutely fucking thunderous. And and they're walking backwards. He goes backwards. The female says, I got him. And I holster my gun. I handcuff his ass and put him down. I ask for another set of handcuffs, and I draw my gun again, get the second guy backwards, and handcuff his ass, put him down. And then by that time, we got more officers arriving. We do the SWAT doesn't exist. We don't have SWAT down there. We don't have the primary response team. We don't have nothing like that. And like I said, I'm no bulletproof vest and windbreaker at the time. So we get about 3 officers, and we tuck and roll into the living room. And go in the bedroom. There's another guy in the bedroom. He's got the girl hostage, the girlfriend. And we find him in a shower. We take his ass out. We find... and in the Cadillac is the guy. So we got a total of 4 Hell's Angels. Between those 4 Hell's Angels, we found over 20-something guns, rifle with silencers. Uzis, you name it. Underneath a little handgun inside a glove, under the pillow where the guy was hanging out with the girlfriend. There was another 2 guns under the couch. We found another gun. All kinds of shit. And it turns out that they had been hired to kidnap and execute these 2 people, because they were informants for the DEA. And so we ended up arresting them all for that. I didn't get any credit for it. Everybody, the DEA rolled out, the FBI rolled out. All of a sudden, all the 1016s, they all went. All the prisoners took off to the office, and I stayed in the office. I was a field evidence technician at the time, so me and oh my God, he became one of the biggest SWAT officers, a really bitching guy. We ended
Gabe
up.
Lopez. Was it
Huh?
Gabe
Gabe
Lopez?
Lopez.
No. Shit, I can't remember his name. Anyway, he'd only been in South Bay for like a week. He was just a fresh off of a rookie officer. But anyway, we ended up inventorying the Cadillac. We found a pickup truck next door with a whole sea bag full of Sensemilla marijuana, and we found Uzis, and the key was already in the lock of the trunk. So all you had to do was run up, turn the key, and pop up, and here come a couple of Uzis right there covered. Yeah, I mean, we found, I don't know, 27, 25 guns or something like that of all different types of weapons. When I went to court, we found recordings where they had been hired to kidnap this guy. They had $50,000 down. No, they had $10,000 cash in a car, and they were owed $40,000 when the bodies were dead. They were going to take them to a Potrero and kill them. When we went to court, nobody would walk with me because there was a hit on me. The head of the lieutenant, and nobody would. My own cop friends wouldn't even walk down the hallway. The judge would he'd hold everybody in the courtroom until I disappeared. Once I left, then he would release the people from the courtroom. Yeah, kind of funny. Yeah, but that's trailer park cases.
Man, that's a great case.
I remember that like it was yesterday, dude.
Trailer park cases.
All right. All right, Big Sean. Let's go to the border team.
Okay. Felix, you were, like myself, you were a member of the Border Crime Prevention Unit. It's also named the Border Crime Intervention Unit. Remember that? BCIU instead of BCPU?
That was that was
I went back and forth, to be honest with you. But anyways,
that name was.
What was the goal of that unit, and who selected the members, and what were some of the qualifications they looked at for you to be on that unit?
The people that started they picked us, some of us, because of the military experience that we had. A couple of us had military experience, and me and a couple of BP guys and some other people had background in military. So they picked us for that, but it was a volunteer thing, and we volunteered. And it's funny because after the shootings and stuff, they would try to talk to the ex-wife and say, to the wife at the time, and say that it was a volunteer thing. It's like, we volunteered. But anyway, there was no selective process per se, other than I guess we were just picked, asked us if we wanted to go, and I said yes. And the reason we went in there because at that time, we were having a lot of robberies in the canyons. I mean, literally pitch black canyons. I mean, you could put your hand this far and you couldn't see your hand. That's how dark it was. But we were having robberies. People were getting stripped naked and searched, taken. They would hide their money in their clothing. Illegal aliens coming across. They would hide their money, everything they owned in their clothing, and they would strip naked till they found whatever money they had on them. The women were being raped, and all this other stuff happened a lot. And as law enforcement from that community, we were kind of duty bound to protect these people and do that. So I volunteered when one of the guys came in, one of the victims came in, illegal alien, and his leg had been split open from his knee to his hip, and the gash was about this wide, and it went all along the side of his leg. And he had been cut because he tried protecting his wife. His wife was being raped, and he doubled back and hit the suspect with a rock, and they attacked him, and then he cut him up. So when I, of course, being a Spanish speaker, and probably one of the very few, I ended up handling most of those cases. So I would interview these people. And when they asked me to volunteer, I said, absolutely. And so I did that. We went out there at night. We'd meet late night, and we would go as far east as we could. Back then, the old type port of entry didn't exist. So we'd go far east as we go and go down to the border. And then we'd walk along the border. And at nighttime, we would come north with the flow, because they see everything, and the polleros would stand up on a hill, and they'd see anything that was out of place, they'd back off. But if you're coming with the flow, to them it's just flow going north. But if you're coming south, they're already in trucha, and so that's what we did. So we worked at night. We were split into the assault team, arrest team, and then we had an observation team, and then we had what we call Charlie team, which was a vehicle. Shit happened. We were involved in 11 shootings. we were involved as a team. We were involved in 11 shootings, and we had 3 of our team members were shot. One was shot in through the ankle and in his ass. He was a border patrol supervisor. Arnie
Jimmy
Forsythe.
Bendorf. Not Jimmy Bendorf. That was
Arnie Forsythe.
Arnie Forsythe. Yeah, Arnie Forsythe.
And then Jimmy Bendorf was hit in the chin,
jaw.
and the
Yeah.
bullet went like this and ended up going this way, broke his jaw in several places, and his jaw was wired.
Was he a
I was
border
standing
patrol
right
agent
beside.
too, Felix? Was he a
Yeah.
border patrol agent too, Jimmy?
Yes,
Yes.
all 3 that were wounded were all border patrol agents.
Wow. Okay.
And we kind of went with that because they didn't have the safety training that we had. They were used to walking into a crowd of 50, 60, 100 illegal aliens and walk in front of them and say, "Párense, vámonos,"
Yeah.
and that's it. Well, no, we walked up like this, you know. But when Jimmy was shot, I was standing right next to him. The bullet whizzed right by me, hit him in the face. I drew down. I started shooting at the suspect, and I tumbled down a hill. I ended up falling upside down. My gun is about 3 feet from me. I grabbed my gun. I fired several rounds at the suspect as he ran south. And then Mike Mendez, he saw the suspect climbing the fence, ended up shooting and hitting the guy in the leg. Jimmy, rest in peace, committed suicide several years later. So that was the very first law enforcement death that I actually went to. He was a good friend, good-looking young boy. And he committed suicide. But and then the third one that was shot was a supervisor, Fred Stevens. Fred Stevens was hit 5 times. The suspect shot him with a 357 revolver.
Yeah,
and
point blank too.
No. The suspect was down a 100-foot embankment, but what happened is Fred Stevens, Cesar Solis, Mike Mendez were all coming over. Me and somebody else were already we were on surveillance, and we would tell them, as they're coming down the hill, the 3 officers are coming down the hill. The suspect has them silhouetted on the skyline because he's looking up. He can see him silhouetted, so he was shooting the silhouette, and he fired 5 shots and hit the guy 5 times, and he dropped there. Mike Mendez kept because Fred Stevens started to go into Vietnam mode. Thinking, get me home, get me the fuck out of here, blah, blah, blah. All this other shit. And Mike Mendez, respect the man, put him up on a fucking pedestal. Mike Mendez held him. Literally, the guy had been shot in the testicles. Through one of the testicles, got shot in the left thigh, through the arm, and he got hit 5 times. Well, in the chest twice, and then
his vest took
bulletproof vest was 2 shots. Yeah. So overall, Mike Mendez kept him alive, and we were only about 20 feet from the crest of the hill. Well, being a field evidence technician, I had to set up an LZ, a landing zone. So I took some flares, set up a triangle, called the life flight, try to get them in. They wouldn't land because they wouldn't land on the saddle. Right. And they wanted me to set it up down the other side of the hill, a good 7,500 feet down the other side, on a flat open area. And I said, nope, right here, goddammit, he's right here. And they want, no, you're gonna fuck it right here. And I set the fucking flares there on the top of the saddle. They finally landed on the saddle, and they just went down, got Fred, and took him out.
Hey, Felix, still alive today? Is Fred still alive?
Fred was taken to Washington D.C. and it was awarded some kind of a medal for federal medal or some shit. What a bitching character! Yeah, the guy had done cross border operations for the FBI, doing undercover. For the Border Patrol, doing undercover immigration shit. So that's what that was Fred. We named each one. We named each one of the shooting scenes for our shootings. We had Redondo Beach. Redondo was a Border Patrol agent who shot a Tijuana police officer. He shot him. They were sitting in a dip in the dark, and it's so dark out there. But Tijuana police at that time, there were 4 Tijuana police officers, and they're trying to talk, get these people to talk so they could pinpoint them. But they had guns drawn. Of course, our team saw it, and they were trying to get the team to talk, but they wouldn't. So finally, one of the Tijuana police officers fires a shot into the darkness, and there's Hank Elias, Doc Blaylock, Redondo, and Bill Tattoo, and they're all sitting in a ditch there. And when the shot went off, Redondo fired a shot and hit the guy in the ass. The guy dropped. The other two suspects were wrestled to the ground and arrested, and one took off into an area we call Gazelle Draw because he ran like a gazelle. And the shooting where Redondo shot the guy, we call Redondo Beach. And then where Fred Stevens was shot, we call the Big Bang. And because Fred Stevens had told us that night before we went out, he says, yeah, they're going to pull us out. We're going to be done. They don't want us to come back in. Let's get out. Let's go out with a fucking bang. All right. We went out. He got shot that night 5 times.
Bang. Wow.
So we call that the Big Bang, the Big Bang. And then we had when Jimmy Bindorf got shot, there was a whole freaking bush. The robbery was occurring on the other side of the bush, and the bandit came running from behind the bush. So we call that the Big Bush. And then what's his name? Arnie Forsyth was shot in a little freaking bush about like this. He's trying to curl himself behind a bush like this, and the bandit's coming up the hill, and he's going, "Levántate, tomato, cabrón! Levántate, tomato!" And Fred is curling up, trying to hide. Arnie's trying to hide behind this fucking bush, and the suspects have been robbing people down at the bottom. So finally, the guy got pissed off and started shooting at Arnie, and bullet went right through his ankle and hit him right in the ass, went through his butt. So that we call that the 211 bush. So that's how we named the different shooting scenes. It's pretty cool.
Hey, Felix, a lot of the shootings that you were involved with, were they with Mexican law enforcement? Because I know the original BARF team, they got into several shootings with municipales and I believe a couple of judiciales. Were a lot of your shootings with Mexican law enforcement? Were they cholos? Were they gangsters? Who were the suspects on your shootings? The majority.
Well, that shooting that we had was involving Tijuana police officers. There were 4 Tijuana police officers. 1 ran off, 2 were wrestled to the ground, and 1 was shot. So we ended up with 3 uniformed Tijuana police officers, batons, handguns, everything. Web gear. They were all completely dressed, and they were probably about they got to be 500 yards north of the border. And then another incident we had was not a gang member. Was not a police officer. He got shot through the ear or something like that. Shotgun pellet took a pellet went through his mouth and ended up coming out the back of his neck and then went through his ear. And then we ended up arresting. Oh my God! You want to talk about a Mexican standoff? We were at the border. They had if you know, the fence line was like this, and then there's a road, and then there's a ditch, and then there's a hill that goes up. And the illegal aliens would come through that. A hole in the fence is probably the size of a freaking semi-trailer. Big old fence, a cut in the fence. You can just hop over. So we have a team in the ditch, about 3 or 4 officers in the ditch. And then I'm on Charlie, which means I got the truck, top of the hill out of view. And the Mexican cops are trying to tell the team, they think they're illegal aliens. They're trying to say, váyanse, go up the hill, get the fuck north. And at the fence was a chief of police in a suit and tie with a shitload of his cops. And finally, the chief of police orders some officers to go north. So they cross the fence and cross the roadway, and they come in with guns drawn. And our team popped up with stream lights and lit the whole fucking place up. And the Tijuana cops froze, literally froze. And so when they froze, our team started wrestling them to the ground, beating them down and handcuffing them. And then and the chief of police, and they called for Charlie. I go, here, come down, rough road and shit. Come down the road, and I pull between the fence and the officers, and I put right between there. And then and I go backwards, and don't say this. Anyway, our team grabbed the Tijuana cops and using them as shields, and using my car back, shoulder up against my car, and I'm driving backwards slowly, and they've got these Tijuana cops using them as shields going backwards, and we pull out to E1, which is the beginning of the
San Isidro
port of entry, and Miguel Rosario goes up to the fence because the Tijuana chief of police pulls out his chief badge and shit in a wallet, and Miguel's got the little pistol grip shotgun, and Miguel goes up to this guy. The Tijuana cop, and he shoves a barrel right into the guy's chest. Get the fuck back! Get the fuck back! It was ugly. Anyway, we ended up with about 6 or 7 cops at the police station in Southeast, down to 63 East San Isidro. And later on, this is late night. We're talking 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, some shit like that. Later on, Chief Collender shows up at our station. The Tijuana chief of police shows up at our station. And we're sitting around chit-chatting with these Tijuana cops in the report room, laughing. And we got all their guns, their leather gear, batons. We got badges. We got all that shit stacked off to the side. And we get orders to let them all go.
Wow.
That was it. It was
Hey,
fun.
You know,
Felix,
it's funny,
were you
dude.
gonna go ahead, Sean.
You know, we mentioned Jimmy and Arnie. The first shooting I got into, I used Jimmy's shooting when I got interviewed by Homicide, by the shooting team. I used his shooting as an example of why I fired. And Arnie, we only there was four guys that tried to ambush us. One had a long gun, and that's the one I went after. He had a trench coat on, and he dipped his left shoulder, and I fired 6 rounds, and then I dumped the Python down on the ground and grabbed the semi-auto backup, right? And Woodruff had shot the guy that would try to take us down on the ground, giving us the commands, and he fired 2 rounds of the 870, and 1 pellet hit the guy in the leg, and he was right there. We were right above Rux Canyon, at the mouth of Rux. And Arnie shows up, and Arnie had formally deported this guy 7 times. As soon as Arnie pulled up, the guy looks over at Arnie and goes, "Oh, you know, Agent Forsyth, how are you doing?" And I'm going, "You got to be shitting me, right?" 7 times this guy's been formally deported, and he's back out there trying to rob people. But
We got some pretty damn good times.
oh, dude. You know, I always told, you know, if they ever came to, when I was still on the department toward the end, if they would have come up to me and say, "Hey, Murph, we're thinking about starting the border team up," before they even got to the question, I would have taken those gold bars off and said, "Give me my stripes back. I'll go back out there." That was the most bitchinest time I ever had in my career. It is just unbelievable.
Hey, Felix, I mean, Felix, you were going after, these guys were predators, man. These guys were raping women, were raping children. I mean, these guys that you guys got involved with, whether they were cops or not, Mexican cops, I mean, these guys were predators. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were robbing.
Man. Yeah.
The one that shot Fred Stevens, he took a bullet to the top of the head right here because, you know, I told you he's down at the bottom of the canyon. And so Caesar Solis, Mike Mendez, and Fred, they're all firing down. And the guy took a bullet to the top of the head here, and he tumbled down a 100-foot ravine and ended up down at the bottom, and his head down, and the blood was coming out of his head and down the ravine. Well, I was a field evidence technician. I had to secure the scene. So as it got daylight, I was putting yellow tape down, and I found the brain matter where it just left. He left brain matter from the place he was shot. I found the gun he used and brain matter all the way down to the bottom where he dropped. But I was going to tell you, in '84, we were still at the old police station, 801 West Market, because I remember after some shooting scenes, at least 2 or 3 of my shooting scenes, I would go. At that time, we had commanders, and I remember walking into the shooting review board, and the commander would go, "Come on in, Felix," and said, "You know, you have a right to an attorney and all this other shit, but you know what? I'll let you sit down and tell us what the fuck happened." And I'd go, "Wah, wah, wah, wah," and I'd tell him exactly what happened. "Thank you, Felix," and shake my hand and walk out the door. That was a shooting review board back in the day.
Yeah, you know what? And I don't know, and your team was, because Solis and I were partners when we were back in patrol, and sometimes we'd have to go out there for border team shootings out in the canyons, and we would always get into a shooting on our Friday, and then we had our weekend. You know, we were on 5 days on and 2 off, and by Monday, we were back out in the field. We got cleared like over the weekend, or the next 2 days. We're done. We got our guns back. Off we go, back out in the canyons. You know, now you know you're out. You're done. Or we'd be reassigned to patrol for about a week. You know, until things the command staff.
We were back. We were back within a couple of days.
Oh yeah.
It was. Remember Joe Wood. Joe Wood was the one that changed the name Border Crime Prevention Unit to Border Crime Intervention Unit. And they pulled us out. Like I said, we did 9 straight months, and then we put another team for 3 months, and then we went back out for 3 more months. So I did a full year, and then they pulled us out because they said we were crazy.
Oh yeah.
Felix, se nos está yendo el tiempo. Our time it's our worst enemy. But listen, we have one last question for you from Seamus Donahue. Damn, this guy is good, he says, talking about you. What is the funniest gang nickname Mr. Aguirre has come across?
I mean, I'm going to have to say, when a black person, a black kid joins a Latino gang, he's given a nickname by the Latino gang. And I had a black kid named Chango, and a Chango means monkey. And so there was a kid from Lomita that was called Chango, and another one was called Mayate. Well, you know what Mayate is? Mayate is black.
Yes.
Those two names. I mean, obviously, we had a Spooky, a Capone, you name them, we had them. And the thing about gangs is that you learn them by their nicknames because that's all they know themselves as. If the guy's telling you after shooting, it was Pato that did it. Okay, Pato, but who's Pato? Well, you know, Pato, homie. Okay, Pato from where? Oh, Pato from Leche, or Pato from Caca, or whatever. And so they only know themselves by last names. They really don't know their real names. Take it from there. That's why it's so important to learn as much as you possibly can from these freaking gangs. Everything. Find out what time they get up, what school they go to, what cars they drive, what girlfriends they have, what graffiti what are the nicknames, everything, anything. That's what makes you the expert. And of course, I just wanted to tell you something about expertise. You can find the definition of a legal expert in the California Evidence Code 720. So I have it here. I mean, I was going to read it and stuff, but given time, but you want to be an expert, find out what it takes, which is no more than the average layperson. So know your gangs like the back of your freaking hand. Know everything about them. They even asked me, do you know how Boxer got his nickname? I can tell you how. Do you know how Dooner got his nickname? Yeah, his brother was an invalid. His name was Junior and didn't know how to say Junior, so he could say Dooner. And so how did this kid went off using the name Dooner? And so you learn these things. And when you know that much, you know a lot.
Hey, Felix, man, you know
gotta
what
have Felix back, bro.
Oh, dude, you definitely need to come back. With that said, Felix, tell us about your books. You have 3 outstanding books. Tell us about them. People can actually buy these books. You wrote these books. They could buy them on Amazon, Police and Fire Publishing, correct? But Amazon. Tell us, let's start off with the revealing look at street gangs, and then we'll go into the dynamics and sociology of criminal street gangs, and then we'll go into your last book. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, the first book, a revealing look at street gangs, is actually a book aimed at the parent, the teacher, those who work, the social worker, those who work with kids. Understand why kids join gangs. Understand at what age bracket. When do they actually start working their way out? Some of the signs, some of the signals, identifying characteristics of how and what a gang member does as he's starting to evolve. If you look at the photo I took the picture there in Lomita. Later on, the kid in the Padre shirt was arrested for a drive-by shooting, and he was saying he wasn't a gang member. But if you look at the table, it's a 7-0 Youngster. Well, his name was Youngster. And there's this graffiti right there on the green table on the front. And of course, he's throwing up Lomita 7-0s. So and the other 2 kids that sit at the bench, those are 2 of my grandkids. They are my grandkids. Anyway, and in the second book, again, for parents, teachers, anybody who works with kids. And the dynamic sociology is written more like a college text. It kind of gives you questions and answers and fill in the blank type of stuff. And both books have QR codes at the corner on a page where you can scan the QR code and it goes to a YouTube video explaining what that topic was on that particular chapter or page or whatever they got. So those are the 2 books. And this one here was a book that I wrote back in 1993, A Parent's Guide to Street Gangs. This was a very first book. I'm not even sure. It was published by Marine Publications in San Diego. I don't even know if this book is actually available anymore. You'll find it every once in a while. You'll find it anywhere from $1 to $600. And you'll find it on Amazon sometimes for sale. I happen to order one because I don't have any. I ordered one and it's got my own autograph to a person. I autographed it to somebody and I got it back. So
wow. So if anybody wants to purchase them, they could go to Amazon and probably they could definitely purchase them there, correct? Other than the Parent's Guide.
Except for the last one. But you can buy it at Police and Fire Publishing. or you can. And by the way, the Parents Guide to Street Gangs was also published in Spanish. So if you have a Spanish-speaking family, that's good for them. Anyway, so you got that, and you can get those at Police and Fire Publishing, and you'll also find them on Amazon.
Felix, once again, brother, man. I mean, the time literally went by like 5 minutes.
Bye, man.
Literally, we've been on for an hour and 12 minutes. It went by like 5 minutes. We're going to definitely get you back, and we're going to get you back on schedule. But next time, I want to hear about the best case you ever worked, the most intriguing case. I mean, there's so many others. And then we have 1,000 questions, and I didn't get to a lot of them because we were on different subject matter. But you're definitely coming back. Big Sean, anything else for Felix?
No, man, it's good seeing you, brother. I miss you, man. I really do. And when you talked about your Marine Corps voice, I remember in the back parking lot at 600 East, man. Yeah, let's go.
Hey, can you give us a Marine? Can you give us a shout out?
I used to make people cry. I used to make people cry with my voice. Oh, yeah.
Hey, Felix, can you give us the old Marine shout out? I mean, I used to yell it all the time in the gang office. Can you give us one online on the air right now, real quick?
Animals, crazy.
Hey, brother, man, you know what? It was an honor to have you. Any last words, Felix, for the people that are watching the show? We have a lot of cops. We got a lot of ex-gang members. We have current gang members. We have parents watching. We have so many people watching. Any last words or advice that you have for them, Felix?
Oh, I just want to throw it out for a lot of good people that are watching. Good friends of mine. Jaime. He came out earlier. Myra, I'm sure Myra's watching. David Solivan. A bunch of. I can't name them all. But I know there's several people watching, and I say, keep it up, brother. Enjoy life. Come to retirement. I'm going to start my 18th year of retirement.
Wow,
18 years,
brother. Yeah.
So
well,
Felix
promises you're coming back.
Give me a call, brother.
Okay, you got it. That'll
Don't
be
make
it.
us come to your house, Felix.
Come have a beer. Hey, come have a beer. I even take you up. I'll take you out to a ranch and go hunting. Got deer, got hog, got shit like that. Dove, quail. Come on out.
Hey, brother, thank you very much, Felix. God bless you. Be safe. And my respect. Una vez más, mil gracias for being on our show. Gracias, Felix. We'll see you soon.
All right, brother. You take care. God bless.
See you, bro.
God bless. All right. Hey, brother, what an interview, huh?
Dude,
I mean, talking about a legend, man. I mean, San Diego PD, America's finest.
We can do at 2 or 3 hours just on stuff that we did on the border.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of, we just touched a little bit of it. I mean, and Felix being like, a gang detective and all that. I remember the Muncha shooting out in Shelltown. Like you were in GST and in gangs, and you worked with them. We were in SED, and we worked with them. So
yeah. What an honor. Hey, listen. Once again, next week. Now today we had a San Diego legend. Now next week we have he's living in Hawaii now, but I think he grew up in Washington State. Gabe Morales. This is who he is right here. Let me put him on. He's the CEO and owner and the producer of Gangs, Cops, and Politicians. He's going to be on with us next week, next Tuesday. This guy knows prison gangs like Felix knows street gangs. This guy is an outstanding individual, a very good friend, also a brother in Christ, excellent man. He's going to be on our show next week, Gabe Morales. And you know what? He just finished actually profiling all the Mexican mafia members starting from the alphabet A all the way to Z. I believe right now he's in R. He's almost finished, but he has a whole book of history, Mexican mafia, Aryan Brotherhood, Texas Syndicate, Black Guerrilla Family. Next week's show, it's all going to be all about prison gangs. And guys, those of you that are listening, make sure that you have your questions ready related to prison gangs. And I'm sure Gabe's going to be excited to answer. So we're looking forward to it. Brother, any last words? And tell us your saying.
You know what? Just like I always say, live tactically, be safe. And especially in these times that we're in right now, take care of yourself and take care of your family and your loved ones.
Amen. And remember, live a purpose-driven life. Live every day like it's your last day on earth. You don't need a badge. You don't need a uniform. You don't need a title to be a sheepdog. Continue saving lives. Continue making a difference. Every day, wake up in the morning and make a difference, a positive difference in somebody's life. With that said, God bless you. We'll see you next Tuesday live at 6 o'clock with Gabe Morales. Outstanding show. Sean, be safe, brother. God bless
See
you.
you, bro.
All right, here we go.